Hello listeners everywhere. Welcome to the Archive of Audio Antiquities, a voyage into the vault of wonders on the wireless. In a moment, Simon Exton and Ken Moss will be here to speak to you.
Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome back to the Archive of Audio Antiquities. I'm Ken Moss.
I'm Simon Exton.
And this time we are listening to the first in a new range of Doctor Who audios from Big Finish. It's the 13th Doctor Adventures, Vampire Weekend. It's Gina's hen-do, and her maid of honour has booked a large manor in the Peak District. All her friends should be here, including Yasmin Khan, who's been mysteriously quiet whilst away on her travels. But Yaz is bringing a guest. Someone who isn't invited, someone who might prove a little disruptive. The Doctor is joining the celebrations. Unfortunately, so is an ancient enemy. This was released in July 2025, written by Tim Foley, featuring Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor and Mandip Gill as Yasmin Khan.
Doctor! Yes! What are you doing here? Why'd you have chickens?
You said it was a hen-do. So let's get this party started. Have you ever met somebody who turns up in a place and then everything goes bananas and everyone starts screaming?
Not sure I have, no.
Right. Well, you have now. Fancy an egg?
Your friend is weird.
Yeah. I won't get in the way, I promise.
We discussed this when I got the invite. It's a big day for my mate Gina. I can't have trouble.
Trouble?
Help! There's something here.
What is it?
Smells awful.
What is that? Oh no. Is that...
It's not as bad as you think.
Which means it's 10 times worse.
This time's different.
Why?
This time I have you.
Doctor, get back!
Don't worry, Yaz. This showdown's been a long time coming. From Macedonia to Pluto to...
This weekend's going to be a nightmare.
At the end of our last episode, we said that the writer might be possibly one of the Big Finish mates. Certainly a familiar name. Tim Foley, he's done quite a bit for Big Finish.
Has he done anything good?
Probably, but I've not listened to a lot of the more recent stuff. Again, he's probably another sort of John Dorney who's written an awful lot of stuff, but possibly now being overmined. I don't know. I will get this out of the way straight away. I enjoyed this a lot more than a lot of the TV episodes.
Here's a low baseline.
It's not the strongest start I could have wished for, if I'm honest. But that is not to turn around and say, this is rubbish. I enjoyed this audio. I'll get that straight out of the way to start with.
It's no Storm Warning.
No, it isn't.
And I don't really think Storm Warning's anything more than roundabout average.
Really? Maybe it was just the whole excitement of getting Paul McGann back, but I loved Storm Warning. And
We've had this.
I know, yes.
Had this conversation any number of times. We'll do it at some point.
What, have the same conversation again? Yes, I know, we do.
That's because you insist on being wrong.
What did you think of this story?
Actually, I quite liked it. As a Big Finish, it's not bad. I think they do some interesting things. I think the bit with the chickens and vampires are scared of eggs because they're the symbol of life and the vampires are the symbol of death. It was a load of bollocks. One of the wankiest explanations I've ever heard. It rivals Invisible Enemy. That just set my teeth on edge because it is just the laziest writing imaginable. You want to have a pair of chickens called Ian and Barbara and you are just making shit up to elbow them into the story. The Doctor talking chicken, fucking hell, straight out of kids' TV. That bit I really didn't like. So fuck the chickens.
The chickens, Ian and Barbara.
The tying into vampire lore with State of Decay and the books and coming up with an explanation as to why there are different vampires. Yeah, I quite like that. The whole truth vampire, nice idea. Trying to tie it into serotonin doesn't really work. But, you know, if I was to be very picky about every scientific mistake in Doctor Who and dear God, every scientific mistake in Big Finish, fucking hell, we'd be here all day. I'm not going to massively hold that against it. little bit of a run around touch of and then there were none people in an isolated building all getting killed off one by one, or sort of pseudo killed off one by one. I didn't get the point of it's a hen weekend, but I've forgotten to invite the bride. That bit just didn't make sense. And what would it have mattered if there'd been another character there to get chomped?
Yeah, I really don't want to have a downer on this. And I've not got a downer on it. So, I'm coming across very negative in the way that I feel about it. I don't feel bad about it. I think I was disappointed that it wasn't a stronger opening. It reminded me a lot of, or the feel of it was very knock knock. Sort of a lot of people in a house, stuff's going on. It had that feel of it more than a Christie. Again, a lot of the characters in it ticked a lot of boxes, and I suspect that's going to be the feel of the Whittaker stories.
I thought you'd say that, and I have a rebuttal on this particular story, because it's the gender non-binary character you're talking about, isn't it? And the them pronouns.
I think there was again, no reason why not, but there was a gay character in there, I think, and even though you've got all these people in a house, obviously they're all going to be different from different backgrounds, but it just felt like we'll use this as an excuse to tick all the boxes in this.
Now, whereas I've got a completely different take on that, because if you were to have your classic hen do, where it's all women who know each other, it would be very difficult to tell one voice from the other. As it was, they did it very well by having the gay best friend, so a male voice. And hen parties will often have a token gay along, but they never have more than one. So it's the way these things work. I've been the token gay on hen nights. I don't particularly like doing it because you are there expected to be camp and entertaining.
Can you not be camp and entertaining?
Not on demand. So having somebody along who was gender fluid or non-binary, however, the character's name I forget. Daryl was one of them, but I don't think they were that one. Anyway, having somebody along who is gender non-conforming, their friends being inclusive about it all, is a reasonable way to get another different sounding voice. So it's not all a whole gaggle of very similar sounding women. So I think in terms of plot structure, that worked well. We'll wait and see with the rest of the series as to whether that continues to be a theme or not. But I think in the context of this particular story, that was a touch of structure that did its job well.
No, that's a very good rebuttal. I can't fight back against. I just hope that that's not the tone for the Whittaker series, because that's one of the major criticisms of her TV series. It didn't work very well. It felt horribly crowbarred in rather than being in any way organic. So shy away from it. What I'd love really is to have some proper classic Doctor Who adventures with Jodie Whittaker. Let her shine. Get away from Preach of the Week or Box Tick of the Week and let her shine. I was very glad this is supposedly set between Revolution of the Daleks and Flux. So I'm very glad that there was none of the lesbian undertone that was all of a sudden crowbarred in as something that Yaz had supposedly been developing from out of nowhere. Again, that was another thing. There was no organic development there. It was just tacked on at the end.
Yeah, and was between the two middle-aged straight white male companions, because clearly we can't allow a woman to be in sole charge, and it has to have token blokey along to give it an air of authority. I
never saw that with. In fact, Graham, I thought, was a very weak waste of Bradley Walsh. I'd rather Bradley Walsh had been the sole companion and a little bit more Bradley Walsh than white male apologist. That I would quite happily have done without Graham and Ryan, to be honest, in their form. I think that developing Yaz as the sole companion, which I'm really hoping they do with this, would make an interesting dynamic, because you've got just two women on the TARDIS. We've never had this before.
I agree, and less so Graham, because he was there as part of the team and part of the Graham-Ryan dynamic, and it's not his fault that Ryan was so appallingly badly played. It was more Dan when they brought him in as, clearly we can't have two women doing this. No, they must be supervised.
Again, I didn't see that at all. All I saw it was They were obsessed with having this different dynamic, somebody for everybody to relate to on board the TARDIS. We do not need that.
Whereas it came across to me as you can't possibly have an all-female regular cast, and we have to crowbar a man in somewhere, and he should be an older, worldly-wise, can show the Doctor where she's being silly and female.
Again, I certainly didn't get that with Dan. I didn't really get it with Graham, to be honest. They were both pretty subservient. Again, different readings of the same characters, but no, I didn't see that at all. I mean, Dan was barely there. I can barely remember a damn thing that he did, apart from pine over the woman that he worked with the whole time.
But he was there the whole time. And I doubt this was coming from Chibnall, to be honest. I suspect this was coming from the BBC higher-ups. You have to have a man on board the TARDIS.
But if that's the case, then this being green-lit, because let's be honest, Cardiff have got a great deal of control, certainly when this was recorded, because this was recorded a good 12 months ago, when Cardiff had the very tight grip on the reins. I suspect from now on, let's be honest, the show is not being renewed in its current format. It's not been confirmed yet, but that's certainly the way things are headed. So I suspect Big Finish will be allowed a freer rein, but if they had been, then this wouldn't have been allowed, if that was the edict or the tone.
Well, I think it was the edict at the time. I don't think it would be now. And I suspect Cardiff doesn't care too much about what Big Finish do, because if they did, they wouldn't allow half the dross that gets put out.
Yeah, but if you look at Big Finish over the years, once the new series started in 2005, all the experiments stopped, all the danger stopped, all the stories that were a little bit risky stopped, and Cardiff started taking a much bigger interest in their brand, to the point where, you know, things started to have the red pen run through them. You're not doing that, you can't do that. The swearing dropped out completely. Not that it was ever a major thing, and I'm, to be honest, quite glad about that. It doesn't fit Doctor Who very well at all. All the danger, all the gratuitous death, it all got sort of eked out of Big Finish, and it sort of sanitised it a bit, which is why I think in order for them to stretch the envelope and do more interesting things, they've got to do it within quite a narrow band. Now, that's not to say that there's a huge pool of great writing talent that's being constrained. I just don't think that the risks that they were able to take in that first sort of 5, 6, 7 years, they were able to do afterwards, and it's shown ever since. Every now and again you'll get a gem, but it is only now and then. Again, I suspect now that, if we're being honest, the show is probably on an indefinite hiatus. I'd be very surprised to see any new TV Who within the next 2 or 3 years, if not longer. So I suspect that the reins will slacken off a little bit now. Because if you look at any of the merchandise and the marketing now, it's all over the fucking place. They've got the, the Doctor Who podcast and the Doctor Who Unravelled show, whatever it's called these days. You know, who the hell is that aimed at? Who are you aiming this thing at? It's all over. So yeah, I imagine Big Finish will have fallen a bit further off the radar than they otherwise were.
Yeah, whereas my feeling has been for years, the best thing that Cardiff could do is say, you know what, 3 Doctor Who's a month. Choose your best.
I completely agree.
There would be a need for quality control that at the moment they don't have, and they really need. Because at the moment it's, we will spaff out so much that you can't listen to it, so much that you bankrupt yourself to buy it all, because we've got mates who want to be able to say they're writing Doctor Who, and they're writing shit Doctor Who.
I will say this much. In recent years, the general overall quality has improved. Of the ones that I've heard, they're a lot better than the potboilers that were being churned out seemingly day after day for a good period. And I think the sales must have replicated or reflected that, because there was a period where the output was just dross, about 10 years ago. And then they got hold of the reins a bit in 2019 and started very much directing each range. And each range had its own producer, and there was a cohesion to it, and the writers weren't just the same writers over and over. There is a different pool of writers now. and it benefits from it. The only problem that I've got really is that of the writers that they've got, from what I've heard, the spin-off ranges, those are the newer writers for the most part, and some of those are very good, but they're not being transferred to the Doctor Who range, which is a shame really, because it needs a huge injection of fresh ideas all the time to keep going. So I'm hoping this isn't 13 stories or 12 stories, all written by the same names. I hope there are some new names in there.
We'll see. As a story, this was very pedestrian. As the launch of a new range for a new Doctor, it was massively disappointing. I don't think it was bad, but I think if this was mid-season, you'd very easily forget that it was there.
No, I quite agree. It was not the strongest start for a new Doctor. It was fun, and I think Jodie Whittaker shone. The only thing I would say is her Doctor does not lend herself well to forced quirkiness.
What, like fucking chickens?
This is a hen do. It was horribly forced, and Jodie Whittaker doesn't do that very well.
I did like the bit where the gay character said, "Oh God, the enforced fun is starting. Please come and rescue me."
Yeah, I'll give you that. Good line.
It's very much like a works night out where, we can let our hair down and we can show our quirky side. And the problem is the vast majority of people don't have a quirky side, but feel that they should have. It's very much the David Brent dancing in the office.
Mm-hmm. Should we rate this in earworms?
Yeah, go on.
This is the song that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends.
Do you want me to go first?
Oh, you're itching. Go on, go first.
I'm not particularly itching. It's just you'll normally vacillate massively until I've got it out of the way. For me, 5. As a big finish, it's not terrible. As a piece of audio drama that you compare to other commercial audio drama, it's very average.
I'm sorry to agree with you. Yeah, it's not one I'm going to be rushing back to. It was entertaining. I didn't dislike it, but it's bang average. I am going to give it a 5. Sorry.
No, not sorry. Big Finish, do better. You're a professional company. Act like it.
And they'll continue singing it forever just because.
It's time for Podcast of the Week. I'm going to recommend one this time. It's Power of 3. This is a podcast featuring Kenny Smith and David Steele, among others. They usually have a panel of 3 people on it, but they discuss all sorts to do with Doctor Who. At the moment, they're doing a bit of a season on the Richard E. Grant Doctor, and I've just recorded something for it, so that'll be coming out. It's an unmade story called Kingmaker, but they've done one recently on the unmade story Memoria and Blood of the Robots, and they've covered Scream of the Shelker. But they do lots of things. They do book reviews, they publish twice a week, and it's just a nice little listen. Kenny Smith does a few podcasts. We've mentioned him before. He does Pieces of Eighth, which is all to do with the various adventures and merchandise around the Eighth Doctor. It's all really well researched. They've just done one. It's an interview with Peter Darvill-Evans, the range editor of the New Adventures, and they've done an episode this week on missing episodes. So it's a real mixed bag, but it's very, very deeply steeped in Doctor Who. It's nicely researched, and they come in roughly about an hour. It's nice stuff. Of the Doctor Who pods out there, that's one of the better ones. Next time, we are continuing our Doctor Who journey. It's another new range. It's the 9th Doctor and Rose adventure, so we'll be reviewing the very first one, which is Snare. Christopher Eccleston and Billy Piper teamed up once again. I'm quite looking forward to this one, because they were a bloody good pairing on screen.
Yep, but what's the betting? It will be Nick fucking Briggs or mate of Nick fucking Briggs putting in a bang average script that the regulars have to fight their way through. I would love to be proved wrong, but I wasn't with Vampire Weekend, and I doubt I will be with this.
We'll go in low, and then we can only be pleasantly surprised.
Let's see.
Until then, thank you as ever for listening to us, boys and girls. Hope you've enjoyed the ride. We'll be back soon.
Bye now.
Archive of Audio Antiquities featured Simon Exton and Ken Moss, and the announcer was Jenny at Blue Box 99. All featured soundtracks are the property of their respective producers, and no infringement of copyright is intended. Title music was by Edward White, and the programme was produced by Maverick Productions. For more information, please visit maverickproductionsuk.blogspot.com or find us on social media.